Everyone, welcome to Broadband News. So, new Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick today came out and said he's planning on doing a rigorous review of the BEAD program, specifically launching a rigorous review. So, what does that all mean? I'll be right back to discuss. Thanks for joining me, Rick Husey here with Broadband News. So, wanted to talk about this. I just saw this come out because actually I was watching the subcommittee on energy and commerce, the Communications and Technology Committee, and the chairman of that subcommittee, Richard Hudson, I think it is, mentioned that Howard Lutnick came out with this, and the timing is interesting because that subcommittee, it's called Fixing Biden's broken broadband. So they're looking at the BEAD program, and they're, of course, focusing on the fact that no broadband has been deployed yet so far, considering $42.45 billion have been allocated for this program, and this was 3-4 years ago that it all started, or all came out, basically. So, the Republicans are making something out of this. They made something out of this through the campaign, and there certainly are issues with the program related to certain requirements that were put in the BEAD Notice of Funding Opportunity that were not in the Infrastructure Act. But the Act passed, and certainly things that are not in the Act can be looked at, and they can be removed if they are seen to be an impediment as far as getting broadband deployed. And some things that have been brought up that I brought up before would be things like environmental regulations or reviews, those kinds of things, certain kinds of workforce requirements. A lot of times the rate regulation is mentioned in there, and I've talked about that before. While the Act does say there should be no rate regulation, the Act does lay out what is a requirement for a low-cost broadband option. And then the other thing that comes out is when Republicans are talking about this is the preference for fiber. They feel like we're wasting money if we're trying to deploy fiber everywhere, and comments have been made about satellite, how you could cover everybody with satellite for way less than we're doing right now. And the comments from Howard Lutnick in the past, as well as Ariel Roth, who's going to be the new BEAD director, have indicated that they do feel like there should not be a preference for fiber, that satellite should be something that would be considered. And as it is today, satellite is considered an alternative technology. Some have said it shouldn't necessarily be alternative, that the state should still have flexibility on doing that. But it's been handled pretty well, I think, from the standpoint of fiber is really what we need to be deploying at this point, because we want to make sure that this is something that we deploy hopefully once, and then we're done as far as the underlying technology, and then the speeds can be supported through that technology as time goes on. And I've talked about that. In fact, I did a video about this a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, I can't recall. But I did a video about this, and I actually have Howard Lutnick in his own words in the Senate confirmation that he was talking about. And I'm going to show one clip today of that too, where he talks about fiber and satellite and doing things as cheaply as possible. So I'm going to show that clip today. But I have other clips in there in that other video that I did. And I linked to that video in the description below, as well as to this that we're looking at right here. And you should really go back and watch that, because in addition to the clips that I have of Howard Lutnick and of Ariel Roth, I also went through the Act itself, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the BEAD portion of that, and I show the language specifically for priority broadband projects and for reliable broadband, and how they're defined. And they are defined in such a way where if you're reading it, you're going to think of fiber, because they talk about the most telling thing would be the fact that this will be support end user requirements for years to come. And you can't say that about the other technologies, because fiber today can support end user requirements already for years to come, because you can already do 25 gig today, symmetrical. You don't want to pay for it today, but in the future that'll be available. Just like you can do gig today, the prices of gig broadband have come down. 25 gig will be available at some point. We have the technology today to do that. And even today, we're deploying 10 gig everywhere. 10 gig cards. Not everybody's getting 10 gig, but XGS-PON cards are now being deployed in most cases, because the price difference between a GPON card and an XGS-PON card, not that different. So you can get the XGS cards and have those ready do gig over them and do 10 gig later. So anyway, the technology today for fiber, certainly when you read the language, that would have been the intent of Congress, even if they didn't say that specifically. So again, there's a link to that. You should go watch it. If you have any questions about what Congress had in mind when they passed this and what technology they would really prefer for what they're calling priority broadband projects, that is what would be considered your most important projects, which you want to prioritize, and that would be fiber. And then when you hear about reliable broadband and read the language on that, again, it's really leaning towards fiber. So I don't think they're going to have much. They might try to change that up a little bit, but hopefully really what they're going to focus on are some of the regulations that are a little bit onerous that are not in the act. Because if it's in the act, they've got to do it. Once Congress passes something, you can't say, oh, we don't like that part. If it's in there and it's explicit enough, and I think you could make the case that it's pretty darn explicit the way it's described, then they have to do that. So I was going to read through this real quick, and then I was going to show one clip of Howard Lutnick when he was talking. I think it was John Thune asked him a question, and then Howard Lutnick responded on that. So I'll show that in just a moment. So you see here, again, this is a statement from U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick on the BEAD program. This came out today. In 2021, Congress created the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program to expand Americans' access to high-speed internet. But years later, because of the prior administration's woke mandates, favoritism towards certain technologies, and burdensome regulations, the program is not connected a single person to the internet and is in dire need of a readjustment. So again, he mentions up front favoritism towards certain technologies. And as I've said before, there should be a favoritism towards fiber, but I really do feel like the NTIA under the Biden administration had done a good job of walking that fine line of saying we want to prioritize fiber, but we realize there's a limited amount of money. They also did a good job of saying not only do we realize there's a limited amount of money, but the states know best how to apply that money and where there should be fiber and where they can't do fiber. So they have the concept of the extremely high cost threshold that they have to set, and anything over that they can consider alternate technologies, and the alternate technologies they can consider would be fixed wireless, unlicensed spectrum, for example, and satellite technology. So there are provisions, and there's been guidance given on how they can apply those funds to satellite in those areas where it is an extremely high-cost location, where they can't afford to do fiber and cover everybody with broadband in the state. That's really the goal, to get every single location in the state that does not have broadband service today, and that would be really, we're talking about over 100 by 20, because anything less than 100 by 20 would be underserved or certainly unserved at less than 25 by 3. So that's the goal, get everybody access to broadband. And the other secondary goal is to get fiber to everybody, as many people as possible, not everybody. If you could do everybody, that'd be great, but to get fiber to as many people in the state as possible. And then in those other locations, you have access to other technologies, alternate technologies, to be able to get the final really difficult areas. The couple of houses on the top of a mountain, a small village in Alaska that's hundreds of miles away from anything, where fiber is going to be a problem. Those are the kinds of areas that you consider the alternate technology. So again, you're walking a fine line there. Let's get fiber to almost everybody that we can, and then do the other alternate technologies. Because if you do satellite, then 10 years from now, we're going to be coming back and saying, you know what, satellite's not doing it for everybody now. It's just not fast enough. We can't get any technology up in the sky that's going to do any better, or it's going to take a whole nother constellation of, Gen 7 satellites or something by that point. So satellite, while it's cool technology, it's great to have for certain areas, it's not something that you want to just say, well, it's cheaper and it's faster. Let's just get this to everybody now, or let's get it to a lot more people now because it's cheap and it's fast. You don't want to do that. And you see here again, reading further. So under my leadership, this would be Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Department has launched a rigorous review of the BEAD program. The department is ripping out the Biden administration's pointless requirements. And that will be good news to some service providers and even states, I think, again, on some of these things that are not related to broadband. But, like obviously the speed of the service is related to broadband. And I don't think they're going to have much luck with the low-cost broadband option, because that is in the act as well. And I did talk about that in that other video as well. So, but he mentions the pointless requirements, and I would think, again, that would be some of the things that were put in there to, for more of the Democrat kind of things like climate and workforce unions, those kinds of things. It is revamping the BEAD program to take a tech-neutral approach that is rigorously driven by outcomes so states can provide internet access for the lowest cost. Again, if they want to provide at the lowest cost, they can maybe give everybody satellite or fixed wireless, but that's not the best thing to do. Low cost is not always the best thing to do, and the money's already been allocated. So they should just go ahead and move forward with what they've been doing, which again is prioritizing fiber as much as possible. Additionally, the department is exploring ways to cut government red tape that slows down infrastructure construction, so that's good. We will work with states and territories to quickly get rid of the delays and the waste. Thereafter, we will move quickly to implementation in order to get households connected. So hopefully what he means by that is that this review, whatever this review is going to be done quickly so that the NTIA, under the new leadership, will be able to work with the states and get additional states approved for their funding. If there's any delays, let's say for Louisiana, that I think there was a delay there because there's still some sign-off that has to happen to do with the NIST, surprisingly. I did a video about that the other day. But hopefully the states that have been given money can get moving forward and get that to the subgrantees, and those states that have finished their challenge processes and have got their applications in, they can get their final proposal approved. We want to get all this stuff moving. Under the revamped BEAD program, all Americans will receive the benefit of the bargain that Congress intended. We're going to deliver high-speed internet access, and we will do it efficiently and effectively at the lowest cost to taxpayers. And again, that last one, I'm always a fan of low cost to taxpayers, but again, this money has been allocated, number one. Number two, it's in the act that priority broadband projects and reliable broadband are clearly fiber. And then again, while I do like low cost, I don't want to have to do this again in 10 years. In 10 years, I don't want to say, you know what, we paid all this money for satellite broadband for all these people, and now we've got to get them on something different because satellite is not good anymore. It's good now, but it won't be good forever because it can't expand to the extent that fiber can already do today. It can't do what fiber can do today, and it certainly can't do what fiber will be able to do 10 years and 20 years down the road when we're talking about 50 gig and 100 gig, right? So again, so that concerns me. We do want to do it efficiently. That's efficiently is good, meaning no wasteful regulations in there, efficiently and effectively. But lowest cost to taxpayers, in this case, I think would be shortchanging what we can do today, and we'd have to be paying more, pay me now or pay me later is basically what it amounts to. So let's take a quick look at the video here. So this is going to be Howard Lutnick, and you'll see he uses a similar, I think it was in this clip where he uses, he does. He uses the same kind of language where he says the benefit of the bargain. That I guess I don't know what that means, but he uses that language again, and he does talk about doing things the cheapest way possible. So let's take a quick look. Again, we're starting out here with Senate Leader John Thune as he asks him the question. And John Thune does not mention the technology. He mentions some of the other stuff. He doesn't mention the priority for fiber, but Lutnick does bring that up.
I want to come back quickly to the NTIA Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. I didn't vote for the legislation that created this program, but it provided over $42 billion to expand internet access to rural areas. And as you likely know, the program has yet to connect a single household. And the Biden administration included a number of requirements not envisioned by Congress in the program, including climate change mandates, rate regulation, onerous labor requirements, and other concerning items, which is why they haven't signed anybody up. And there isn't a single telecom in South Dakota, which represents and serves a lot of underserved areas, that can use the program because of all these mandates and conditions they put on it. So my question is, will you commit to working with states to remove these requirements so that funds can go to truly unserved areas?
I'm going to work to make sure that Congress gets the benefit of the bargain. You want to get broadband into the hands of low-income people, let's go do it. But let's do it efficiently, and let's do it swiftly. Let's use satellites, let's use wireless, and let's use fiber. And let's do it the cheapest, most efficiently we can. And I commit to working with you to make sure the states execute and deliver on the promise that Congress has made.
And will you also work to ensure that this BEAD funding is only used for actual broadband infrastructure builds?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So again, you heard a lot of the same kind of things that you saw here in the press release. But so the cheapest word concerns me, and it's interesting. I was watching that subcommittee hearing today. I didn't watch all of it. I saw the news about this, and I wanted to get on air here and report that. But it was interesting that I was agreeing with the ranking member of the Democrat as she came up and talked about the BEAD program and talked about the fact that, we don't want to be putting out a technology that's not going to be future-proof, basically. So I found it was interesting. I was agreeing with her because normally I would not agree on that end because I tend to be more conservative than liberal on that perspective, certainly economically. So anyway, I think we'll have to see what this means as far as any delays in the BEAD program. Hopefully, when Mr. Lutnick goes through this and sees the lay of the land, maybe talks to some states, maybe talks to some technology experts, that he will understand that fiber is number one. So hopefully somebody will show him the language in the act that it does indeed, when you read it, it does indeed mean that you want to put fiber out there and not something like satellite. So hopefully he'll see that. Again, technology folks will hopefully talk to him and talk about the fact that fiber can get 25 gig today, 50 and 100 in the future, and satellite's going to be an issue if you give that to folks. One thing I mentioned the other day is that you've got a 5-year lifespan on a satellite up there. So in 5 years they have to start to be deorbited, and you've got to continually launch to be able to keep those satellites up in space. So that right there, you've got to question how reliable that's going to be over time, because at some point, like I say, satellite's going to be not fast enough for folks. Then you've got a satellite constellation up there that is going to be used less and less. And how long do you maintain that as you get fewer and fewer people on there? So as more people get fiber, you've got fewer people in remote areas, then how long is that constellation, that satellite constellation, going to be usable? Because eventually it's not going to pay for itself, as you don't have enough subscription funds coming in to pay for it. And again, you've got to keep relaunching satellites to keep it up there. So thanks for joining me today. Hopefully this was interesting, some news for you. So give me a thumbs up on the video down there on YouTube and click to subscribe, ring the bell, and you'll be notified when I'm live. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.